Hello again, lovely souls. Today I wanted to share some thoughts I've had about the validity of our spiritual experiences. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of weird experiences all from my childhood, and sometimes it's difficult to explain them to other people because we don't really have the words and the concepts for them. And other times you can be met with so much skepticism and did you really do that? Wasn't that a dream? And you know, if you've had a spiritual experience, whether you've had an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, or if you've seen or met or smelled your deceased family members, there can be so many ways of having a spiritual experience. Of course, also in prayer or in meditation, that we kind of feel that something happens with our energy body, with our minds, with our souls. It can feel very personal. And what I really want to discuss here today, and I really want your opinions on it too, is how we can say that something is true, like giving it validity. Because most people who never had a spiritual experience will be very skeptical and they will try to explain it, that this and that is happening in the brain and you can't have seen your dead grandmother. A coincidence that you had a telepathic contact with someone. And for me, obviously, my experiences are real because I do experience them. But also very interesting, I think, is to hear other people's explanations of it, if it's in an open and nice and respectful dialogue. Because we can give validity to our experiences without knowing exactly what is happening. And that has happened to me so many times through my life that I've had an experience, and to me it's a spiritual experience. It's something that is a little bit out of the physical norm, the physical reality that we normally dwell in. And when I have these experiences, they impact me very strongly. And that's why I have to give them validity. And a lot of people have come to me during the years with their experiences, and they say very often that I've never told anyone about them. At least 20 years ago, that was very normal, that people would say, I've never told anyone about it. I don't want to seem crazy, but I actually saw this or experienced that. And I think that to be able to respect ourselves and to be able to feel whole and to feel healthy and sane, we have to give our own experiences validity. It means they are true because we experienced them. This is what I saw, this is what I felt, this is what I heard, this is what I experienced. That in itself is true, the experience is true. Then comes how you interpret this experience. And the interpretation will depend on your background, where you grew up, your family, your culture, what is accepted around you, whether you can share it because it's sort of an accepted experience, or whether you can't share it because you would be laughed at and ridiculed for what you actually experienced. So I think it's important to differentiate between the actual experience and the explanation. When I explain what my spiritual experiences are, it is taken from my understanding. And from my understanding, I've been in contact with spiritual guides my entire life. And you could say someone who is not on this spiritual path that I am could easily explain them as something that happens in my mind. It's nothing external. It's no spirit out there that talks to me. And maybe they're right. How can I prove it? But my proof, for me personally, the reason why I then stick to this understanding, this way of having my faith, is because by doing that, I feel supported. I feel that it actually benefits me to listen to the information and the messages I get. And I feel it benefits me to go into meditation and connect to these powers that I feel is all related to the one source. And when people send me energy, it's the same. For me, it's not such a difference between the spirit world or the ascended master world and people. If somebody tells me something or gives me an advice, I would always use my own logical sense and my own brain powers and my own intuition, and then decide whether it's right for me, whether I should take that advice as something I can use, or whether I just like say thank you, but I can't really use that, or at least inside myself put it aside. And I think it's necessary and important to do that in any situation, that you don't just listen to somebody and you get advice and you do exactly what you're told without questioning. And I've been questioning my spiritual guides from day one. I've been questioning them my entire life, but it turns out that whatever sources it is, whether it's a subconscious sea of energy I'm connecting to, or whether it's one spiritual guide that I feel that I'm connecting to, and I feel it empowers me right now. I don't want to take the magic away from anyone's experience, because sometimes it can be something so simple. It can be you're sitting outside, you're looking at the clouds and the sky and the sea or the stars or trees, or you're just breathing in, and then sometimes something can happen that it shifts something in you. Right now, I'm on this volcanic island of Lanzarote, and the energy here is completely different from my experience. I can interpret that. I'm on the volcanoes. I'm really close to the movement of the magma inside the earth, and that influences me in a way. It brings some power, it connects me to some power which is different from other places I've been. And that's a little bit this feeling of this island, that there's a power I don't know, it's not familiar to me, and yet I'm part of it. And yet if I connect to it, I get a spiritual experience out of that, because everything is energy, everything is vibration, everything is interconnected. And this reminds me of something that I'm part of. First of all, I'm really interested in how you have your spiritual experiences, if you've had any special, specific situation that you felt was a spiritual experience for you, and how you interpret it, and how you interpret other people when they come with their spiritual messages or spiritual experiences that they want to share. Because I think that we should be brave and share our experiences, because this way we learn from each other, and I think our understanding grows when we see that we don't only experience things in the three-dimensional reality. And in my childhood, I had all these experiences. I was allowed to have them in my family, but meeting the world around me, my classmates and so forth, made it much more difficult to stick with my explanation of life, because I didn't see this life as the life. I saw this as one of the dreams or one of the lives that went parallel. Not like you had a life before and then you're going to have a life. No, I didn't see it that way. I saw them as parallel movies that was happening that I could join, and that this one was a specifically uncomfortable one for me. But as I then grew older, and when I was 14, on a specific day when I was 14, I decided to believe, like everyone else, that this life is the only life. This is the life that we're living. This is the only important thing to focus on. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're sharing. And to me, there was sadness in giving away my spiritual world, all my guides and experiences. But I did it because I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be part of this understanding there was in my culture. It didn't last long though. It lasted for a few years, and then I invited my guides in again. I started to do meditations more regularly again, and then they were there. And so for me, it is important to give validity to what I experience. And when I experience my guides as guides, and I experience this as something that isn't me, because I've got so much information that I know personally that I couldn't have had, I've got the confirmations I need, but it doesn't mean that you need to believe in my explanation or my interpretation of my experiences. But I do think we should be better at giving each other validity for what we feel, what we experience, however weird it sounds. Sometimes we don't know what happened, and I don't know what had just happened. You know, I've had experience where I was just like gone for 5 hours, and my heartbeat was so low, and people around me thought I was dying. I've had them several times in my life, and I can't say what happened. But what I do know is when I was out of my body and could see myself laying there, then I could see myself laying there, because I have a very, very clear picture of that yet today, that this has happened. It's not fantasy in the sense of me making this up. It's something I experience, and then we can discuss how we should interpret that experience, and that's an interesting discussion. So tell me, what kind of spiritual experiences have you? What does spirituality mean to you? And if you want to share something in the comments below, it would be lovely for me to read. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video if you like my content, and let's share some love.